You know, my grandfather was an old Mainer, and he used to always say, when the crickets sing louder at dusk, autumn ain't far behind. Me, I just look at a calendar, and I can't believe that August is here already. It's a perfect time to hit reset for the autumn rush. Quince proves you don't need a crowded closet to look incredible. You just need the right pieces. Are you familiar with Quince? They specialize in effortless, high-quality essentials like ultra-soft organic cotton and premium Mongolian cashmere sweaters. They're beautifully tailored, they're built to last, and it is a perfect transition from morning meeting to dinner. Kat looks so cute in her cashmere sweater. Everything at Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They work directly with ethical factories, cut out the middleman, so you're paying for quality, not brand markup. And I'm not exaggerating when I say my favorite shirts are Quince, but I also love their shorts. And the thing that I was really surprised about when we first started getting Quince clothing is the high quality, and the price is just so unbelievably affordable. And they also bring the same everyday elevation to everything they offer. Kat's also a big fan of the hotel-quality linen pillowcases. Upgrade your everyday. Download the Quince app for app-exclusive offers or go to quince.com/oddities. Get free shipping on your orders and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada and the UK, too. That's QUINCE.com/oddities.
Late night bites with friends? Already hard to beat. That first too hot bite of fries you couldn't wait for, followed by ice-cold Pepsi. Now that hits different. Suddenly, the energy kicks back in, the night goes longer, and the laughs don't stop. Because Pepsi brings out more flavor, more fun, and more of the moment. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a Pepsi Zero Sugar today.
The Box of Oddities.
I was watching a video, and it was an interview with a guy who had a near-death experience, which the odds of that happening are pretty great. While on the other side there, he learned about angels, he says. And he said that angels really aren't what we are led to believe, heavenly beings with wings and halos and stuff like that. He said they manifest in many different ways. Very often, your pets are actually angels. And I just thought that was beautiful.
And I could buy into that, for sure. I don't necessarily, on the whole, buy into that concept, but I like the idea that maybe our pets are. We've talked about this before. I don't necessarily believe in heaven, but I do believe in a dog heaven. Okay. And you're just going to have to get over that.
He also said that you just never know. People that you run into during the day, maybe even a person that you had no intention of interacting with, and they will make an attempt to put some positive vibes into your life.
This very interesting situation happened to me yesterday, and it fits exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, tell me about it.
So I'm dog sitting. And
right.
So I'm a ways away from you, which is terrible. I mean, let's be clear. Hate it, 100%. But I stopped at a restaurant to get some food. And let's say, just for the sake of argument, that it was a local mom and pop, like all organic, really healthy restaurant.
Okay.
And so I'm ordering my Impossible Whopper. And the man... when I got up to the window, he was holding out one of the local mom and pop crowns for me. And I was like, oh, thank you. And he said, I just have to say, I could feel your energy through the speaker. You have a great energy. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And he said, it's just, sometimes you work like this and you hear 100 people a day and you just don't even think of it. But I heard your voice over the speaker and you just got such a cool energy. And I was like, wow. Oh, that's really nice. And he was like, you can pull ahead or you can hang out. So I was like, oh, I can hang out. So how's your day going? We chatted a little bit. And then I could move ahead. And I had to wait for my salad, let's call it, to be brought out to me. And so I'm waiting while while I'm waiting, I'm cleaning out my console, which desperately needed to be tidied. And the guy comes up to the window and I was like, oh, hey. And he said, I can just tell, like, you're a wonderful person. Like, I just love talking to you. And I was like, oh my God, stop. I really appreciate that. That's nice. And it really was, I don't want to say needed because, that doesn't feel right. But I've been having a really rough couple of days. I've been feeling really not great. And that was one of the better experiences that I've had recently. It was just so nice.
Sometimes angels might be working the drive-thru. You don't know.
That actually sounds like an early 90s movie starring Danny Glover.
Yeah.
Angels at the drive-thru.
Angels at the drive-thru. I'm glad we're on this kick about positive vibes and stuff because it leads into my story. And I think that this is kind of needed right now in today's society.
Is it a good bit?
It's a very long good bit. When you were in high school, did you read Lord of the Flies?
No, I saw the movie though.
Oh, you saw the movie. Okay. A lot of schools required that as literature reading. It's a novel about a group of British schoolboys that become stranded on an island without adults. They attempt to organize, but it does not last. The boys divide into rival groups. They paint their faces. They begin hunting one another. By the time they're rescued, some of them are dead. Kind of like Yellow Jackets. I never really drew the comparison there, but I'm a little slow on the uptake sometimes.
Except Yellow Jackets has Melanie Linsky, who is exceptional in every way. And
I would agree with that, yeah. So Lord of the Flies was published in 1954. It became one of the most widely read novels of the 20th century. And the unsettling message was the monster on the island wasn't hiding in the jungle. The monster was us.
We're always the monster.
And it's easy to look at the world today and wonder, what's holding this crap together? We see our institutions under strain. They're being tested. People have retreated into opposing camps. Anger is rewarded more often than kindness is. It can still feel like the pressure that's being applied is it's going to cause society to crack. It feels like it already is. And when that happens, is it going to reveal something selfish and violent underneath? I think it already is. Let's be honest.
A quick way to sum up what you just said is dumpster fire.
Dumpster fire. But this is a story of hope. It's the true story of the, for lack of a better term, anti-Lord of the Flies. In June 1965, this was 11 years after Lord of the Flies was released, 6 boys attending St. Andrew's boarding school in Tonga decided they were going to run away. Their names were Sion, Stefan, Kolo, David, Luke, and Mono. And they ranged in ages from 13 to 16. And by their own account, they were just bored. They didn't like the discipline of the school. They didn't like the food. So they decided they were going to run away. They talked about sailing to Fiji. They didn't have a boat, so they stole one from a local fisherman. They packed 2 sacks of bananas, a few coconuts, a small gas burner. They didn't bring a map or a compass, 2 things that you might want when you're attempting to navigate the South Pacific, and that would be a map and a compass. That evening, they sailed away. It was a calm sky, and all of them fell asleep. They woke up in the middle of a storm. Waves were crashing over the boat. The wind tore away the sails. It broke the rudder. There was no way to steer, and they were carried farther and farther out to sea. Food was gone pretty soon. They tried to catch fish, but they couldn't. When it rained, they collected the water in coconut shells, and they divided it equally. And each boy received a sip in the morning and another one at night. And that was it. And that was for 8 days. They drifted with almost nothing to eat or drink. And the boat was slowly coming apart. Then one of them saw something on the horizon. Although it wasn't exactly the tropical paradise that they were hoping for, Ata was a steep volcanic mass rising about 1,000 feet from the ocean. There was no welcoming beach like Tom Hanks found. There was just no easy way to get on it. So they abandoned what was left of the boat, and they began swimming, using pieces of wreckage to stay afloat. Mana was the first to reach the rocks. He was so weak that he could barely stand, but he called out to let others know he had made it, and one by one they reached the island. At first, things were desperate. They dug a rough cave with their hands and searched for anything that was edible. They caught seabirds, they ate eggs, and fresh water was, of course, scarce at first, so they would resort to drinking the birds' blood.
Oh.
Yeah. Eventually, the boys climbed into the island's interior, and they discovered something they did not expect. Inside an ancient volcanic crater were the remains of an abandoned settlement. Ata had once been home to a small community. In 1863, many of its residents were kidnapped by men involved in the Pacific slave trade. The remaining population was later relocated and it left the island empty. A century later, pieces of that vanished community helped save these 6 boys. Wild taro and bananas still grew near the old village, and chickens that had descended from those left behind wandered through the ruins. So the boys, they built pens, they found an old knife blade, and with that one piece of metal and whatever else the island provided, they began to build a life. They hollowed out tree trunks to collect rainwater. They planted a garden. They created a kitchen. They created sleeping areas. They divided up the work. Teams of 2 rotated through cooking, gardening, and guard duty.
This reminds me of when we were in Maine just a couple of weeks ago, and I was on a hike with my friend Erica, and we were talking about how we both had this weird habit when we were young of going into the woods and plotting out our woods house. And I don't know if this is a thing that like other kids did, but I can still walk into the woods and go like, oh yeah, that would be my kitchen.
Really?
And I don't know exactly what I mean by that, but it's true. And Erica agreed.
That's really cool. I've never done that, but boy, it resonates with me, I've got to say. These guys even went as far as building a gym with homemade weights.
Wow.
And they even cleared an area for a badminton court. Now, Stephen managed to start a fire by rubbing 2 sticks together, and they knew how difficult it would be to start another one. So somebody was always responsible for keeping that fire alive, and it burned continuously for more than a year.
Oh.
The boys did argue, of course. They were frightened, they were hungry, they were teenagers, and they're trapped together on this island with no reason to believe anyone was looking for them. But they did have a rule. When an argument became heated, the boys involved had to go to opposite ends of the island. After they calmed down, they returned, they apologized, and they got back to work. There was no rival tribes. Nobody hoarded food or tried to become a dictator. They understood that every one of them was more likely to survive if they all worked together.
And for kids that young.
I know, 13 to 16.
So impressive.
That became especially important when Stephen slipped. He fell off a cliff and he broke his leg badly. So they're on this island. There are no doctors or medicine, and that could have ended him. Instead, the others carried him back to camp. They set the bone, they made a splint from sticks, and they cared for him while he healed. And when Stephen was examined after the rescue, the doctor was amazed at how well the leg had mended.
Wow.
The boys also understood that survival involved more than just finding enough food. To remain alive, they prayed together every morning, every evening. They sang songs. They even made a guitar out of driftwood. They found some wire in the coconut shell, and they made a guitar. During their time on the island, they even composed several songs of their own. Yeah. I know when I was reading the description on how they built a guitar, I'm thinking the professor on Gilligan's Island would have probably been able to fashion one of those. And the music helped them remember that there was still a world beyond Ata, even when the world seemed impossibly far away. Mano's father would later say he never completely gave up hope. Then on September 11th, 1966, Australian Sea Captain Peter Warner was passing by Ata when he noticed burning patches on the cliff, and he thought that was odd. So he picked up his binoculars, and he saw a boy with long hair standing on the island. The boy jumped off a cliff and began swimming toward the boat. And then several more appeared and did the same thing. And so Warner and his crew, they were a little nervous, understandably. 6 wild-looking boys were swimming directly toward him, screaming. Stephen was the first to arrive at the boat. He introduced himself in English and told Warner there were 6 boys on the island and that he believed they had been there for about 15 months. So Warner radioed in and gave their names to the operator, and then they waited. About 20 minutes later, the operator returned and he was crying. The boys had been given up for dead. Their funerals had already taken place. He said, quote, "You found them, it's a miracle." So the boys returned to Tonga. Hundreds of people gathered to welcome them home. Families who had buried them in their minds were suddenly able to hug them again. I can't imagine what an emotional experience that must have been.
For real.
There was, however, one complication. The boat's owner still wanted them charged with theft, so they threw the boys in jail.
Not really, though, right?
They did, yeah.
Stop it.
But Warner paid the fishermen for the lost boat, and the boys were released. Warner later hired them to work aboard his fishing vessel, which he named Atta.
Aww.
The story is often called the real-life Lord of the Flies, but that description does not do justice to what these boys did. They came from a culture built around family, faith, shared responsibility, and community, and those values did not disappear when everything else was taken away. They carried them with them onto the island. And we hear plenty of stories that tell us people are selfish and people are cruel. But cruelty is loud. Conflict does get our attention. Cooperation is there in the background every day without anyone writing a novel about it.
Yeah.
The boys of Atta were scared. They became angry. They sometimes lost hope. They weren't perfect, but they didn't forget that they belonged to each other, to one another. They shared the water. They kept the fire alive. They carried the injured. And to me, the most beautiful moment of this story is that when darkness descended on the island, they just made a guitar out of coconuts and sang.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that beautiful?
And it's so, I hate to say it, but it's so surprising.
Yeah.
Not just people who survived, but kids.
Kids, 13 to 16.
Wow.
My information came from The Guardian and ABC News. You know the old saying, the glasses make you look smarter? Well, I don't know if that's true, but I have to tell you, these new frames that I got, I feel smarter because I saved a ton of money. I got them from Zenni. Zenni's an online eyewear shop with stylish prescription glasses, sunglasses, and customizable lens options at prices you are not going to believe. You can get a pair starting at under $30. It's easy. Just go to their site, pick a frame, enter your prescription, customize your lenses, and they ship them right to your door. No store visit, no pressure. And I have to say, these are my favorite frames. For a long time, I'd been wearing the same kind of frames. Even when I got a new pair of glasses, I would get the same frame. Now I feel like I got a fresh new look. I got the exact type of frame I wanted. I got progressive lenses. I got the transition lenses. I got the special protection, and I could not believe how affordable it was. Go to Zenni.com and check it out for yourself. Over 150,000 five-star reviews. Zenni has a virtual try-on so you can see exactly how the frames look on your face before you order them. Be honest, you need new glasses. Autumn's coming, and that scratched-up pair has done its job. Upgrade today with Zenni. Go to Zenni.com/podcast and use podcast15 for 15% off your first order, plus free shipping on all U.S. orders over $65. The styles sell out, so don't sit on it. It's ZENNI.com/podcast. Promo code podcast15.
Fun fact, Venus flytraps are native to a very specific area on the East Coast within a 100-mile radius of Wilmington, North Carolina.
That's weird. How's Jeff doing, your Venus flytrap?
Jeff's doing really well. Thank you for asking. I've had several people ask me how I get my fly traps to live so long and flourish as well as they do. The key? Their water.
Specifically, AquaTrue. Did you know 3 out of 4 U.S. homes have toxic chemicals in their tap water? AquaTrue is the countertop water purifier tested and certified to remove 84 contaminants, including chlorine, lead, forever chemicals, and microplastics.
So I don't have to buy water for Jeff anymore, which is really nice.
AquaTrue's patented 4-stage reverse osmosis system goes way beyond the ordinary filters for pure, healthy water you can trust. No plumbing, no installation. And AquaTrue has been featured in Business Insider, Popular Science, and named Best Countertop Water Filter by Good Housekeeping.
Join 98% of customers who say their drinking water is cleaner, safer, and healthier with AquaTrue.
Go to aquatrue.com now for 20% off your purifier using promo code BOX. AquaTrue even comes with a 30-day best-tasting water guarantee.
That's aquatrue.com, AQUATRU.com. Use promo code BOX.
And now, that thing in the middle.
And since we're on a little bit of a theme of comebacks, here are some bizarre, true comeback stories. Number 5, the trees that survived Hiroshima. Scientists feared nothing would grow near the Hypo Center for decades. That following spring, though, new leaves appeared on badly burned trees. They call them survivor trees, and many of them remain alive today, and their seeds have been planted all over the world.
The Bermuda petrel was believed extinct for more than 3 centuries, but 18 nesting pairs were discovered in 1951, and a teenager on that expedition devoted his life to restoring the population, and now hundreds exist.
Number 3, the enormous Lord Howe Island stick insect was declared extinct. Decades later, a tiny population was found living beneath one shrub on Ball's Pyramid, a nearly vertical volcanic spire. A breeding program brought the species back from roughly 24 known survivors.
Wow. Woolly pines were known only from fossils and believed to have vanished millions of years ago. But in 1994, a park ranger discovered living trees inside a remote Australian canyon.
And number 1, those of us who were alive in the 80s remember scientists discovering that human-made chemicals were destroying part of the Earth's atmospheric shield. Countries around the world worked together to phase out those chemicals, and the ozone layer is now recovering. Proof that humanity can recognize a planetary crisis, cooperate, and begin reversing that damage. See, this episode is full of hope.
You just wait.
Starting or growing your own business can be intimidating and lonely at times. Your to-do list may feel endless with new tasks, and lists can easily begin to overrun your life. So finding the right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything as a built-in business partner can be a game changer. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. From household names like Gymshark, Rare Beauty, and Heinz, to brands just getting started. Shopify has hundreds of ready-to-use templates that can help you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand's style. And you can tackle all the important tasks in one place, from inventory to payments to analytics and more. No need to save multiple websites or try to figure out what platform is hosting the tool that you need. And if people haven't heard about your brand, you can get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you, with easy-to-run email and social media campaigns to reach customers wherever they're scrolling or strolling. Start your business today with the industry's best business partner, Shopify, and start hearing. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/realm. Go to shopify.com/realm. That's shopify.com/realm.
The perfect lunch combo. That first bite of your favorite sub, followed by ice-cold Pepsi. Add a couple of friends, and now that's next level. Suddenly, the laughs get louder, the stories keep flowing, and the food tastes better. Because Pepsi brings out more flavor, more fun, and more of the moment. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a Pepsi Zero Sugar today.
And now, today's highlight in history. On this date, somewhere in the world, some woman or man said something and some shit went down. Man, we loves us some history. This is the Box of Oddities.
So we're going to start with not great. In 1941, Nazi Germany invaded Yugoslavia. German forces seized Sarajevo, and the city's Jewish community was immediately targeted. The Nazis looted the historic synagogue, burned its precious Torah scrolls. Sarajevo had one of the largest Jewish communities in Yugoslavia. By the 1930s, roughly 12,000 Jews lived in Sarajevo, with another 2,000 scattered throughout other Yugoslav cities. And unlike Jews in Nazi Germany and some other parts of Europe, Yugoslavia's Jews had not been confined to ghettos or subjected to the same escalating system of violence. Relative security was about to disappear. The Nazis established the independent state of Croatia, fascist puppet state ruled by a violent ultra-nationalist Croatian movement that had embraced Nazi and fascist ideology. The Gestapo opened an office directly across the street from the home of a Muslim furniture salesman named Mustafa Hardaga and his wife, Zeneva. At night, the Hardagas could hear the screams of prisoners being tortured inside the Gestapo jail.
Oh my God.
And then in April 1941, the Germans bombed Sarajevo. Among the homes destroyed was that of the Kabiljo family, a Jewish family Mustafa knew from his furniture business. The Kabiljos had fled to the hills when the bombings began, but when they returned, they had nowhere to go. As they made their way toward the family factory, they encountered Mustafa Hardaga. He did not hesitate. He invited them to come home with him. The Hardaga household already included Mustafa and Zenyava, along with Mustafa's brother and his wife. They were observant Muslims, and according to their religious and cultural traditions, the women of the household normally covered their faces in the presence of unrelated men. Talking to strange men in their home was, under ordinary circumstances, an extraordinary breach of that custom.
It was incredibly brave on a lot of different fronts.
It really was. These, though, weren't ordinary circumstances.
No.
The Hardagas welcomed the family into their home and told them, in essence, that they were family now. Our home is your home. And Zenyaba later recalled that the women no longer covered their faces around the family.
Aw.
Not because their traditions had changed, but because they were no longer considered strangers. He was family now.
That's beautiful.
And this Muslim family was about to risk everything to protect their Jewish family. It wasn't long before danger came directly to the Hardaga's family door. One day, the Gestapo arrived to inspect their documents. Joseph Kabiljo, his wife, and their daughter were hiding inside a large closet concealed behind hanging clothes. The Gestapo searched the house, and somehow they weren't found. For a short time, the Kabiljos remained hidden with the Hardagas. Eventually, Joseph was able to get his wife and child to Mostar, which was then under Italian control. Conditions for Jews were comparatively safer. Joseph stayed behind. He still had a business to liquidate, and he wasn't willing to simply abandon it. Eventually, he was found and arrested. He and other prisoners were supposed to be transported to a concentration camp complex. Serbs, Jews, and Roma, as well as others, were systematically murdered. But winter intervened. Heavy snow made the journey impossible, so instead of being transported to the camps, the prisoners were taken to the streets. Their legs were chained together, and they were forced to clear snow from the roads. And somehow, Joseph escaped.
Wow.
Headed back to the Hardaga home. The family took him in again, caring for him, nursing him back to health, with the Gestapo headquarters just across the street. The Hardagas knew what was happening to people who sheltered Jews. Notices had been posted throughout the city warning that anyone who hid Jews or Serbs would be executed. And when Joseph came back to their house, they opened the door. Eventually, Joseph became terrified that his presence would get the Hardagas killed. So he fled again, making his way to Mostar and reuniting with his wife and children. The Nazis did discover that the Hardagas were helping Jews.
No.
Zenyaba's father, Ahmed Sadiq, had been forging identification documents to help Jewish families escape persecution. He was executed.
Oh, God.
But still, the Hardagas continued doing what they could.
Even after a family member was executed.
The Kabilyo family survived the war. Eventually, they made their way to Jerusalem, and for decades, the two families carried the memory of what had happened, until history brought them together again, almost 50 years later. It was 1994. Sarajevo was under siege again.
Yeah.
76-year-old Zenyaba Hardaga was once again living through a war in a city where she had once risked her life to protect a Jewish family. Her husband had since died, and this time the people threatening Sarajevo were Serb forces conducting a campaign of ethnic cleansing. Sarajevo was surrounded and cut off from the outside world. Food and clean water were scarce, electricity was unreliable, and snipers fired into the city. Zenyaba and her family watched their neighbors being shot and killed in the streets outside their home, and they were terrified they would be next. At one point, the family was so desperate for food, they survived on soup made from grass that they were able to gather from a nearby park. Thousands of miles away, in Jerusalem, the Kabilyo family was watching the news. They remembered Zenyaba, and they wanted to know if she was still alive. They contacted an Israeli journalist covering the war in Sarajevo and asked him to find out, which he did. Zenyaba was alive, and the Kabilyos weren't going to simply watch her suffer. They contacted Yad Vashem, the Israeli Holocaust Remembrance Center, that had recognized Zenyaba and her family as righteous among the nations in 1984 for their acts in helping the Jewish families, and they asked for help getting the Hardagas out of Sarajevo. At first, the powers that be were not persuaded, so the Kabilyos kept pushing. They took their appeal all the way to the Israeli prime minister, and eventually something extraordinary happened. In early 1994, Zenyaba Hardaga and her family were among roughly 300 people evacuated from Sarajevo in a convoy of 6 buses.
This is an incredible story.
Sarah, Zenyaba Hardaga's daughter, was amazed to learn that the Kabilyos, the family her mother had once protected, were now working to save them. Sarah herself had not known the full story of her family's courage during the Holocaust until 1984, when they were recognized as righteous among the nations. Her father had already died, and Zenyaba rarely talked about what happened during the war. But she did tell her daughter something that Sarah never forgot. You can't control how rich you will be, or how smart or successful you will be, but you can control how good you will be. Zenyaba couldn't have known when she opened her home to the Kabilyo family what would happen 50 years later. And she certainly couldn't know that one day, when her family was trapped in a war, the family that her family had saved would fight to save hers. Different religions, different wars, different generations, but underneath it all, people recognizing that other people were in danger and refused to look away.
I remember the conflict in the early 90s very, very well. And one name that kept coming up over and over again was Slobodan Milosevic. And he was the president of Serbia. Ultimately was indicted by the International Criminal Tribunal of Yugoslavia or something for war crimes, and was arrested and held in prison where he died in 2006 before his trial had finished.
Wow.
Yeah, long time. He didn't get away with it, you know. There's that.
There is that. It's easy to get bogged down with all of the tough things that are happening in the world around us, but then you see stories like this, and it really does remind you how loving and kind and beautiful people can be.
And it goes back to that now, well, it is iconic quote from Mr. Rogers. When there is something horrible happening, look for the helpers.
I would also add, be the helper.
Yes, there you go.
I got my information from Kveller.com. yadvasham.com and aish.com. That's AISH.com. This story is so much bigger than what I had time for and absolutely incredible. So I would suggest reading it for yourself.
Want to thank those of you who have joined the Inner Circle of Freaks on Patreon to help support the podcast.
We just uploaded a new poll to figure out when our next Zoom call will be.
It'll be shortly. And if you want to be part of that, you can very easily go to theboxofoddities.com, click on the Support the Podcast link, and it'll lead you down the path to darkness. We'll see you next time.
Keep flying that freak flag.
Fly it proudly, you beautiful freak.
And so, let it be known that the Box of Oddities belongs to you, and its fate is in your hands. Therefore, it's been requested by those to whom I report to beseech you for assistance. We ask but one thing of you, to provide a 5-star rating and a positive review. True, that is 2 things. However, 'tis merely a 5-star rating and a positive review. Also, subscribe to us. Okay, so 3 things is all we ask. 3 things and 3 things only. Henceforth, the Box of Oddities commits to the telling of stories. Stories of the strange, the bizarre, the unexpected. We wish to offer our deeply felt gratitude and appreciation for your patronage. TheBoxOfOddities.com. Copyright 2026, all rights reserved.
This episode is brought to you by ChatGPT. Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast. Have you guys heard about ChatGPT work? It's the new way to use ChatGPT for bigger multi-step projects. And when you need more than just answers, give ChatGPT work access to your apps and files, and it can create real work documents like spreadsheets, slides, and structured reports. Get started at chatgpt.com by selecting work mode, available on Plus and Pro plans.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.